If he doesn't win the next 2 years, I think at the very least, you'd have to say the Dodgers need somebody with a different voice that has a different approach towards the results-based playoffs. Whenever you sign 2 players for $1 billion, at least you commit to pay them over $1 billion over a certain period of time. It is definitely win now. So what are your thoughts on Dave Roberts if they don't win a World Series?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question. I think it points out something that's really crucial, which is that Dave Roberts, although he is the manager of this team, he might not control every single aspect of this team. And maybe it's not him that is to blame for some of the problems that they've had in the postseason. Although if you're the manager of the team, you're going to take the front of the blow. So I think with this question, I think it's really going to depend on if they don't make it to the World Series or if they don't win. One, how did that happen during this 2024 season? You seem to have all the pieces in line. Is it something where it came down to a 6 or 7 game series with Atlanta, who's another really good team, and it was just something where couple pitches here or there you couldn't get over the top? Then maybe it's not something that you have to take a look at. Maybe it's something where you still have a really good roster and you just fell short one of these times. But if it's something where they're losing again in the division series, then you have to take a close look, whether that's at Dave Roberts or whether that is something to do with this coaching staff trying to create some sort of energy. Obviously, we're talking a little bit premature right now, but I think we've talked about in the past, Dave Roberts right now kind of has maybe 2 years or so before we want to see him at the very least get to a World Series, if not win the World Series, with the amount of resources that he's been given, with the just incredible talent that he has. This is his time to capitalize. This is his time to build his legacy. And so they might be willing to give him these 2 years. I think it really depends on what happens and why certain things happen.
I would totally agree with that. I would say that if they don't win a World Series in the next 2 years, it's not going to matter whether it's his fault or not. I would say that when it comes to 162, his job is more just kind of ego management, making sure everybody's comfortable, getting people through rough patches, making sure the egos don't get too big on the upticks. Those kinds of things, just the culture part of it is what goes into the 162. I would say the playoff scenarios, that's where the on the field is going to get. That's where it actually matters the most. It's less about culture in the postseason and more about on the field moves, because the thing about a 162 game regular season is that it's all about the long run. It's about playing for tomorrow, playing for 2 weeks later. It's about the culture. Okay, and so whenever it becomes, it's about the process, I should say, is what I'm trying to get to. You hear that term all the time, the process, the process, the process. Well, what does that mean? Okay, even if you're 0 for 4, if you're having good at bats, then everything's fine, because over a long marathon of baseball, if you're having good at bats, eventually that will pay off for you and you'll start hitting the ball very well, right? So you worry about the process and not as much about the results in a marathon of 6 months. But it flips, and it flips completely on its head in the postseason, and the process matters absolutely none, and it's all about results, because if you lose 2 games like we saw last year, then that monkey jumps on you, and it's very, very difficult. So, in my opinion, Dave Roberts is just an insanely good manager when it comes to the process of building a team, building a 6-month schedule and record, and creating a culture and process that guys are able to perform in a long marathon. Where he has fallen short is being able to flip to the results-based type managing that you have to have in the postseason. And I think a lot of that is, and I'll just say this straight up, is because instead of saying, hey, this guy is going to help me the most winning this game, he's still in process mode with the idea of, well, this is my guy instead of the guy. And because he's gone with my guy instead of the guy, it hasn't worked out for him. So if he doesn't win the next 2 years, I think at the very least, you'd have to say the Dodgers need somebody with a different voice that has a different approach towards the results-based playoffs. Did I say that properly?
Oh yeah, I completely agree with all that, and that was kind of what we talked about Friday. Is if Dave Roberts is going to go with like he stated, this is my guy. When Kenley Jansen would come in, he's sticking Kershaw in. He's going to bring Hayward in and areas to where other players are going to do better than what they are just because he feels comfortable with them. That's one thing that I worry about with Dave Roberts. The question is, say we go to the World Series this year and we lose the World Series, does Dave Roberts get fired then?
No, not this year. Yeah, there's just almost nothing he can do to get fired this year, not even close. It would be at least 2 years before they it's not ever going to get fired. It's going to be a matter of just not re-signing his contract.
Right. So, like I said, I have a lot of faith in Dave Roberts. I think he's going to do a very good job this year. He proved what he was about last year, and I think he's going to do just as good, if not better, a job managing this team.
Austin, you have any final thoughts on that before we get to Emmett Sheehan?
I think a lot of it was stated really well. This is the difficult part about flipping the switch from a large sample size regular season to a small sample size sprint type of postseason. You have to make these decisions, and everything has to work out in a short period of time, which there's a lot of variance that goes on in the postseason. It has not gone the Dodgers' way recently. We'll see how it's able to go. He's been given all the pieces that he needs to. Now it's up to him to push all the right buttons and for the players to perform as well, because they haven't been performing the past couple of postseasons.
You got to be willing to hurt some feelings in the postseason in short bursts, in win now mode. You got to be able to say, sorry, dude, I love you, but can't do it at this moment.